It's the internet, you're busy, so let's do this. Welcome to the GamesBeat Decides podcast. This is the podcast where we decide everything about the world of games so you don't have to think about it. I'm your host, Jeffrey Grubb. With me is Mike Minotti.
And I decided that Jeff is dumb.
You know what? Today I'm feeling pretty dumb. I'm struggling with
Poor
my
Jeff's
computer.
frustrated.
Yeah, I'm very frustrated. I'm annoyed. My baby was crying all day. Now my cat is actually at the door crying. Mike, just why don't you start crying too to make me really feel at home on the podcast?
I'm not a crier. I'm a man. I'm burly and strong and
I've
don't
seen
show
you have tears in
emotions.
your eyes before when you've seen me for the first time in a long time. I've seen it.
Yeah, right. I'm never gonna see you. You don't go to the vets anymore. I have to go to everything.
Yeah, that's right. I got a baby now, so I'm just gonna sit at home and
Yeah.
make you do everything.
Ugh, God.
The excuse is still working. In today's episode, we're going to go into the news, and then we're going to talk about the NES Classic getting basically canceled. We'll talk about that in a little bit. First, I want to thank you for joining us. Get more from Mike and me at GamesBeat.com. If you have something to share with us, email the podcast at games+podcast@VentureBeat.com. If you're watching the video version, which I'll put up in a weird way later on YouTube, you could subscribe to the audio version on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and more, wherever you get podcasts. Finally, if you like the show, rate us on iTunes because that's going to help people find this show. All right, Mike, how are you doing?
I'm all right.
And what have you been playing? You been playing anything good?
Just more of nothing new really. I've just been playing more of that Trails in the Sky second chapter. So that old RPG. So nothing hot and current. And more Hearthstone and stuff, but.
So what's your problem? How come you're not going to play PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds with
That
me?
does not look like my thing at all. Isn't that like an Arma thing or whatever?
Kinda, but it's really just a battle royale thing. Okay, it is very. I had no idea what to expect going in. I will say it's very low stakes. So, 100 people join a server. You get dropped from a plane onto an island, and you run around this island with nothing. You start with nothing. Everyone starts with nothing. You go around looking for guns, armor, ammo, things you can add to your guns, first aid kits, and then the last person alive wins.
I mean, it sounds neat.
It is so cool, and the best part is like, you go around and you kill maybe one person if you're good, and then you die 5 minutes later, and then you just load up again, and there's so many people playing that you get a match really quickly, so you never feel like you can't take risks because you've done all this work. I mean, okay, so there's been a couple times where I get in the top 10, and I'm like, all right, I'm really going to make this, I'm really going to make a push for it, and I do die, and I do feel like I really wasted all that time, like doing all that effort, and those matches can be a little bit longer, but the game does this smart thing where it pushes everybody into these smaller and smaller quadrants of the map by making these little circles smaller and smaller, where it's safe to be. If you're outside of these circles, you get electrocuted or something. It's some weird thing, some weird contrivance. But so you get pushed together to the point where these matches are only ever going to take so long. So again, it's low stakes. You don't have to put a ton of time into it, and yeah, it's very tense though. At the same time, while being low stakes, like when you know the plane is going to go over the military base, for example. Like half the plane, 50 people all jump out of the plane because you get to choose when you jump out above the military base, and everyone just heads for like where they know a lot of the best stuff is often kept, and so it's this race to get the best armor, get the best weapons, and to make a viable loadout so you could survive, and then you could see the number like right away, the number of people left just starting to drop, 99, 95, 90 within the first minute, and it's a really intense thing. And I want to play with you, so you got to get the game is what I'm trying to say.
I mean, it sounds neat. The thing is, like, I still play Overwatch every day, so it's like when I have that time to play like an online shooter of some kind, I'm probably playing Overwatch. But I mean, this is obviously different, like incredibly different, but still, it's just like
it's the same time. No, I know what you're saying.
Yeah,
because I'm not. It is the time I was previously putting in games like Overwatch or Titanfall 2. But yeah, that's it's huge on Steam, and it's kind of fallen in the wake of King of the Kill, which is still even bigger. But I think it's eventually PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, which is a terrible name, is going to take it over.
Yeah, right. Who's PlayerUnknown?
PlayerUnknown is basically, I guess he's some Arma modder who made the first Battle Royale mod for that. And he's got like a lot of cachet with that audience, so a Korean developer
Interesting.
brought him on to help them make theirs.
So
and he
it would be like
made
if they
his.
called Dota 2 Ice Frogs Dota 2 or something.
Ice Frogs Dota 2s. Because it's kind of the plural at the end, because that's what
Dotas.
really messes it up. Yeah, why didn't they just call it PlayerUnknown's Battleground instead of Battlegrounds? That's what really.
Why not just call it Player Unknown? Make a riff on his name. That'd be
Yeah,
okay.
there you go.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
Whatever.
Yeah, it really it looks really bad. Okay, but yeah, that game is as good as I think a lot of people are saying. I mean, it's early access still; it's not finished and it's buggy, but it's worth checking out. Mike, let's get on to the news. Let's hop right into here. We got a few things we want to run down this week. Starting with number one is something we speculated either last week or the week before was
It
probably
was
going
like
to
April
happen.
Fool's when we thought it was going to happen. So.
That's right. So about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Bayonetta is now on Steam. The original Bayonetta, not Bayonetta 2. Platinum Games was able to get it out on there, and it looks great. Apparently, it runs really well, like in 4K, even on rather old machines, which is impressive. Makes me kind of want to go back and play it again. Is this something that you're gonna maybe try to get, or are you a big Bayonetta guy?
I don't know. So, because like right now, if I'm gonna play a Platinum Games game, I'm gonna check out Nier finally,
of course,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, so like, Bayonetta 1 was a game I played a bit when it came out. Bayonetta 2 was the one I played all the way through. And I was like, I do feel a little guilty because I have that Wii U version of Bayonetta 1, right? But I'm also like, I'm not playing a Wii U game, you know. So yeah, I am curious, like, how good does this look on PC? And I don't know if I'm $20 curious. This is definitely one of those. This is going to be like $5 on a Steam sale at one point. And then
I was thinking the same. Like they're like Steam's like getting reloaded with games I might consider to buy during a Steam sale. Whereas maybe last year and the year before I bought all the games I wanted, so there was nothing left to buy. Now these are the kind of games where $5, I'm definitely gonna just buy Bayonetta. I'll have that on PC for sure. I at the same time, and this is kind of the second story, but it's still part of the first story. Platinum Games says, if it were up to us, we'd port all of our games to PC, but it all depends on the publishers. I hope that means Vanquish has a chance. Vanquish is Platinum's weird third-person shooter, sci-fi shooter. It was really, really neat and really underrated.
I don't know why I never played it, because people, like, doesn't it have some kind of, like, it's Rocketeerishness to it?
I mean, a little bit. Like
there was that other game that was super Rocketeer. Never mind.
No, it's not that. I know you're not thinking of that. Yeah, because that game was bad. Vanquish definitely had like the jump pack, and that was all the movement was. Dashing left and right and forward and back. But yeah, I would love that on PC, especially if it got the treatment that Bayonetta has, where it looks really good.
Yeah, I would actually be more interested to play Vanquish than Bayonetta 1.
I would too, for sure. I would get that immediately if it came. I think a lot of people would.
And
so
I
bet that's what they were referring to. When they
right,
said
and
this.
it's the same publisher as Bayonetta 1. It's just Sega, so it seems like it should happen, right?
Yeah, and Sega's definitely embracing PC more than they ever have before. Right. So, yeah, I think you're right. It's something that's going to happen. It has to happen. Hopefully
the Nintendo one's probably not so much.
Yes, like the Bayonetta 2.
Wonderful 101, probably not happening.
Yeah, oh my god, yeah, probably not. I mean, who knows what the actual publishing agreement was there, but I think in general you're right. Those games just aren't ever going to come to PC or most other platforms. All right, now on to the next story. Star Wars Battlefront 2 got announced. It's coming out. So I think that I can't remember if we talked about that last week. It was definitely leaked early, and it they officially announced it on Saturday at the Star Wars Celebration in Orlando, and it's got a single player campaign, and you're going to play as an Imperial officer at the end of Jedi. It looks like after the Empire comes down and the Emperor gets killed, and you're going to have to get revenge on the rebellion. It looks pretty cool, and then the multiplayer is going to have all eras like Battlefront always does, and they showed off Darth Maul and they showed off Kylo Ren. And yeah, it looks pretty good. I really like the first one, but I think this Star Wars Battlefront 2 starting to look like the game that the first one should have been to a lot of other people.
Right. It's the game that probably Battlefront 1 could have been if they didn't need to get Battlefront 1 out like immediately, right?
Right, yeah. I mean, for what Battlefront 1 was, it was still, I think, really impressive. Yeah. They did rush it, and yet I was still really happy with it. Clearly, the progression wasn't there in terms of, of keeping people attached to the multiplayer for a long period of time. But I played it for a while, and I still really appreciated it.
Yeah, no, I did like it. I know, and I mean, I understand the criticisms of it.
Yeah, same here.
But, like, the things it did do, I thought were done very well. I thought, a very good looking game. But yeah, sure, like, you give me that with like a single player campaign and kind of just more content. Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah, and here's some really neat aspects of the single player campaign. The writer of Spec Ops: The Line, one of the best written shooters of all time, Walt Williams, he's writing the story for Battlefront 2 with Mitch Dyer, who used to write for IGN. I know he left games journalism a while ago. Didn't really know what he was going to work on. Turns out it was Battlefront 2.
Now, Mitch Dyer, he was a Bitmob guy, right?
You know what? I think you're right.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, that is nuts. God. So yeah, so
He's
Mitch,
better than us. What the heck?
yeah, I know, for real. Writing Star Wars games, that's nuts. But I'm also really happy for him because that seems like a dream job. I know Mitch is a big Star Wars fan. Walt is I follow Walt on Twitter. He is a smart and funny guy. Spec Ops: The Line is an incredible game specifically because of its story. It's a game that you haven't played yet, people out there definitely should give it a try. That's often on sale on Steam. So I'm excited for that. That seems like it has a lot of potential. And yeah, again, it seems like they're doing Battlefront right this time for the people who really felt they were wrong the first time out.
This is funny. So, like, I have not played Spec Ops: The Line yet, so I'm like, oh, I better check my Steam library, see if I have it. And I do. It's there.
Yep, exactly. Man, that is Steam right there. Where
right, it's like, what games do I have that I don't even know about today?
Exactly. So many times has that happened. Actually, that's Steam.
Right.
One other thing about Battlefront 2, they're ditching the season pass, which is just industry standard now at this point, right? They're probably going to have cosmetics you can buy.
And no one can get away with that anymore, except for like Call of Duty, maybe, and even then, it's probably not a great idea.
I think EA is still doing it with Battlefield, but that is the closest thing to Call of Duty, and I bet Battlefield will eventually get rid of it pretty soon in the next game or two. But yeah, so I wonder if that does mean that there's definitely going to be cosmetic items you can buy in Star Wars and Battlefront 2, and how that would manifest. That would be weird and interesting.
Right, it's going to be harder this time because it's not just the same two sides fighting every match, right? Like,
right.
You spend all your money or something on some stormtrooper outfit, and then you're playing on a map with your clone trooper instead. How does that work?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if that's how they do it, if they keep you funneled into those eras, where if you're on a map that takes place during the prequel era, are you going to have to play as a prequel era character? I mean, it makes sense visually, but it might not make sense for them in terms of how they're going to monetize the game. So who knows? It's going to be interesting to see. But the game is shaping up from the early looks of things pretty interesting, and I'm excited to.
Yeah, it's definitely what I'm looking more forward to for kind of the end of the year.
Yep. Here was an interesting story. So I was on NeoGAF. Someone mentioned that Microsoft on the Alpha Ring for their preview thing, which is something I'm in, where they test out new versions of the Xbox One interface. They had an announcement saying that they were introducing self-service refunds, where on Xbox One and Windows 10 you could buy something from the Microsoft Store, an app or a game, and you could get a refund by going to your purchase list on your Windows account online and clicking a button and requesting a refund. It has very similar restrictions to how Steam works. So there is a 2-hour limit and a 2-week limit. So you can play it for up to 2 hours. You can have owned it for up to 2 weeks. If you're within that realm, it's going to be real easy to get the refund. If you're outside of that, you're probably going to have to talk to someone at Microsoft to get a refund if they are going to agree to do that. Now, this is something I believe that they're still testing out. They haven't officially rolled it out to everyone across all Xbox Ones and Windows 10. But I have the option on mine because I'm in that alpha ring. So it feels like something that's not just a test, like, oh, we're going to see if this is an idea we want to try. It seems like it's definitely coming. We're just going to have to wait a few days, maybe a couple of weeks before everyone gets it. This is a big change, though, Mike. Is this something that you welcome, or have you never really have you ever refunded a game on Steam, for example?
No, I'm usually, first off, so many games I get anymore, it is through work,
right? And
I play so many games just so long. There's very rarely do I just kind of buy a game on a whim anymore, to a point where I would, I don't know, be dissatisfied. And I'm not a big returner in general. Like, I get very like, oh, I don't know, maybe it'll get better. Maybe I already bought it, whatever. That money's gone anyways. I'm not one of those people like, oh, I need my money back. I'm not completely satisfied. So, not so much my thing.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Even if it's something broken that I get from Target, I'm like, half the time I'm just going to, I'll just...
Whatever. It's like, oh well, that's a loss, but
I have to go talk to someone at the store.
Yeah, that's not worth $15.
Find the receipt, and I'm sure like they've made it even like way easier than that. You don't have to do a lot of that stuff. So I'm just like, I'm not going to take my time. So I haven't ever, like, I don't typically do that. However, at the same time, this is something that they have to do, right? You have to make refunds easier so people can take chances on games that might be broken, because games have been more broken than ever, it seems like. I mean, I don't have any numbers necessarily to back that up, but that's the sense I get.
I think it seems about right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm saying anything that's too crazy when I say that. So if the solution isn't, ship only games that aren't broken, because it doesn't seem like that's ever going to happen again. The solution has to be enable people to get their money back really easy if they do end up with a broken game that they're really unhappy with. So yeah, now Microsoft has followed Valve when it comes to this. This is leaving Sony and Nintendo sort of out of the loop. Do you think either of those Japanese companies are going to come along and try that?
Well, not Nintendo. God, no.
Yeah.
Maybe, Sony, maybe. I don't know. It depends. I mean, people pick up on this and... like I was about to say, Microsoft could be like, we have something that Sony does, but I don't even know if that matters at this point. Sony's lead seems kind of going ahead here, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if I expect Sony to come out at E3 to say they have something like this.
I don't know if it's even that, if it's like an E3 kind of announcement, right? It's not a very sexy announcement.
No. But I would imagine maybe if they are working on it, it would be out before the end of the year. If it's not, I bet they were caught by surprise that Microsoft would do this without being forced. And I agree with you. Nintendo's just not going to go for this. No way. They don't even. They make it hard for you to buy your games, let alone refund them.
If they heard the idea, they'd probably be appalled.
Yeah. Finally, I think this is going to be our last story. Then we'll go to the ad, and we'll return with our one big topic this week. The Nintendo Direct happened. They had one. It was it Friday or Thursday of last week? I think it was Friday.
It was Thursday.
You know what? You're right. It was Thursday, and they.
Aha.
Yeah, I like the Mike was right dance.
Yep.
I'm so glad we don't have video this week. So they focused primarily on Splatoon 2 and ARMS. We got some dates. Splatoon 2 is coming out July 21st. ARMS is coming June 16th. It's starting to feel like Nintendo's going to have a big game a month, at least through summer, before we might have to wait for Super Mario Odyssey. Maybe they'll have something announced at E3 to fill in that gap. But how are you feeling coming out of that Nintendo Direct about Nintendo's offerings for the Switch?
I mean, there weren't really any big surprises.
No,
right? There were some games like, oh, cool, Rayman Legends is going to be on the Switch. Mm-hmm. That's neat, I guess. But nothing bad. I mean, the release dates are kind of what you were hoping for, right? One June, one in July, so it's spaced pretty well.
Mario Kart comes out in like a week.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm already sold on Splatoon 2. ARMS is kind of the bigger question mark. Like, is this actually going to be like a good game, or is it going to be kind of like this
waggle? Yeah,
it's kind of like what I almost thought Splatoon 1 would be. Like, I thought Splatoon 1 was this like cute little experiment that might be like neat, but whatever. Right. Like, if ARMS could be the next Splatoon, it would be fantastic. It would give that whole system a big kind of unexpected boost.
Yeah, I agree, and I think there's the chance for that. When I look at the gameplay, I'm still not sure how it feels to play, but it looks very satisfying landing punches on the opponent. Especially because if people don't understand, it looks like a behind the back fighting game where you're controlling a character and you are throwing punches either using the gamepad or actually flinging your fist while holding the Joy-Con controllers. So I don't really know how that feels, but you could do things like curve the fist as you're throwing it, so they fly through the air and it will fling to the left and hit the guy in the face like a curveball, and it looks really interesting. It looks very satisfying when you do land one of those curveballs and it hits him right in the chin. It's something I want to try and see if the mechanics themselves are as satisfying as it looks. But until then, I'm in the same boat as you, where I'm hesitant about whether or not this is going to be a fully great Nintendo game in the way Splatoon ended up being.
Right.
But it has the potential, from what I can tell. Nintendo had some other things. Like you said, Rayman Legends, Payday 2 got announced for the Switch. I thought that was pretty weird. That's a popular cooperative PC bank robbing game, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's on some other consoles and stuff. But for it to come to the Switch, I think it shows some developers, especially some of the smaller developers, are seeing the Switch as an early opportunity, maybe to find an audience that is hungry for games. And if you're on there, you can take advantage of that. And Payday 2 strikes me as an example of something like that. And if it works out, hopefully it does work out, other people will follow and put similar kinds of games on the system. And then I think the only kind of other big thing was Splatoon's Salmon Run. They showed this cooperative horde mode. Did that get you excited in it, like, at all?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
good. Because I think I was way into that when I was looking at it.
Because the whole horde mode idea seems like it would work just really well on Switch, right?
Right.
Because I mean, I remember we were playing the Gears 4 horde mode with some friends not too long ago, and like we literally had like brought another TV over and put it next to the other one, because obviously you could do it online, but we like kind of all wanted to be in the same room with each other. And yeah, the Switches obviously makes that pretty easy as long as you all have your own Switches, which
I mean, it's getting to that point with a lot of people who play games anyhow,
right.
where everyone has it. But yeah, I mean, I guess I didn't even think about that situation where people would be getting together to play the horde mode, but that's very interesting. I mean, I still think that the online being a question for Nintendo and how voice chat will work will make something like a horde mode where cooperation is key. That leaves it up in the air whether or not it'll work like that. However, I thought it looked really cool.
Right.
It's just a map where these weird fish things attack you in waves, and it was just a horde mode. But they had this really weird sort of a video announcing it, where it was like an instructional video from the 80s, like for a fast food restaurant, and that was really good. So it just Splatoon 2 is hitting all the same notes, all the right notes that the first game hit, and they're expanding it in interesting ways that I want to try.
It's kind of like all unique and weird, and exactly.
Just as long as it doesn't come at the expense of the single player campaign. I just want another really great single player campaign
really
as well.
Did like that, and I will be disappointed. I feel like a lot of people are gonna be like, "Oh, who cared? No one played the single player campaign."
It was very cool.
I did. It was fantastic.
Yep. Okay, guys, I think that's going to do it for the news. We will take a quick break, and when we come back, we will have our topic where we talk about why the hell Nintendo canceled the NES Classic. And yeah, we'll be right back. Mike.
Hi.
Why are you going to be traveling in like 2 weeks? What are you going to be doing?
I'm gonna go to the GamesBeat Summit Conference in Berkeley, California. It'll be great. We are going to have speakers such as Star Wars Rogue One's screenwriter Gary Whitta, an Epic Chief Executive Officer Tim Sweeney,
and very special guest, Sledgehammer Games. Yeah, this is happening May 1st, May 2nd in Berkeley, California, GamesBeat Summit. We put on these events all the time. They happen regularly. This is our summit. It's a little bit different than just GamesBeat proper, where it's more intimate. You're going to get face-to-face with people.
It's real intimate if you're there with me.
Mike's probably not going to be wearing pants. This is a good thing. Intimacy is something we need in the gaming industry, and this is what's going to happen at GamesBeat Summit. If you want to find out more about this event, you're going to check us out at VentureBeat.com/events. If you want a code that might be able to get you a discount still, I think that's still happening. To get that, go ahead and get a hold of us on Twitter at GamesBeat, twitter.com/GamesBeat. If you message us there and we see it, we'll try to get back to you, and we'll get you a code that you can use to potentially get a discount for tickets to attend the event. And we hope to see you there, or at least Mike does, because, again, I'm staying at home because I have a baby. I'm going to be sleeping. I'm going to take a nap. I'm going to be getting intimate with a pillow.
I want a nap.
And we're back. Mike, let's get right into it. Nintendo canceled the NES Classic Edition, essentially.
How could they do that?
They're sending out a few more shipments before the end of April. That's it. Then the system is done. Nintendo, when they sent out okay, so you wrote the story. I got a hold of Nintendo. Their wording was, we never really intended this to be a long-term thing. The success of it made us, we made a few more because of that, because people really wanted it. The demand was high, so we sold a bunch more. But we're moving on. This thing's old news. People have not been able to buy this thing on a store shelf for quite some time. If they come into stock, they sell out immediately, whether it's online or in a store, since they debuted in October. Why is Nintendo doing this?
Well, there's got to be a reason, right? It literally can't just be like, whatever.
Right.
People want to buy this, but we're over it. Like, there must be a reason. I can only think of two, and one of them seems much more likely than the other.
Well, give me the unlikely one first.
The unlikely one, but maybe likely, is that they are concerned that this is going to cut into their virtual console business of selling digital copies of old games. And they weren't concerned about that at first when they thought this was just going to be some small thing that some niche, like, nostalgic gamers would buy.
Right.
Nintendo's always underestimating the appeal of certain things, that I guess nostalgia for the NES somehow was something they vastly underestimated.
They could have just asked me, man. I would. Hey,
right.
Trust me.
I mean, it's funny how we all praise them for making it like, oh, that's really smart because all the people who like the NES are now adults of money, and now they seem dumb again because they were like, it was like something they just threw out there, like, oh no, it actually is popular. So like maybe that's happening, but they've sold their games, like their old games, so many times, so many different ways. It's hard to imagine that now they're concerned about doing it in too many different ways. So I think the most likely thing is just that there is an NES Classic Edition 2.0 coming probably this holiday with like more games, more features, and like this will be like the one that hopefully there are way more of, or maybe they'll just do it again where there aren't a whole ton of them and they can sell as much as they want to make a whole fever pitch about it.
I would add a few things. I think what you said there makes a lot of sense. For the latter option, there is a possibility that Nintendo made contractual agreements with the third-party developers and publishers that have games on the system, like Konami, that put Super Contra on there, and Capcom with Mega Man 2. It's possible that they only made the contracts for a certain number of these systems. Maybe. Maybe it was for a certain amount of time, or maybe it was for a certain amount of money per system that Nintendo now wants to renegotiate. And I'm thinking there's the potential for the NES Classic 2 is to increase the profit margins, because that's one of the reasons I would think you would say, hey, no, we're cutting this off now. We're selling these things, and actually we're hurting ourselves in the long run, because we could come out with the NES Classic 2 with a few more games of our own, sell it at a higher price.
Yeah.
And come back and be able to negotiate a better deal with the third parties and say, hey, we're going to sell a lot of these. So if you want to get on board, we're not going to give you as much money per system, but we're going to sell way more because we're going to make more. We're going to be prepared this time. So I think there's a possibility that they're making these negotiations right now, and that's one of the reasons you take out the shelf and say, no, you're not going to get any more money per system for this first one, Capcom and Konami. We're going to cut it off now. If you want to get back on board, come to the table and meet our new demands. I think that seems like, I'm speculating there, but it just seems like the way that they handled this, it seems likely to me that all of this is leading to that sort of situation with the NES Classic 2.
Man, it's very fitting because Nintendo bullying third-party publishers was kind of the history of the NES, right? It's like the only way that they would be in that position again.
It makes me nostalgic.
Yeah, right.
To think about them just being hard asses with these other companies. Yeah, right. I'm sure they are. I'm sure Capcom and Konami are feeling nostalgic as well.
Yeah, hey, we all matter. I mean, The thing is, they need help like from those two if they want to add more games to it, because you could add some Nintendo games that were on the original, but they had all of the big heavy hitters on there.
Yeah, for sure. No, yeah, you're right.
Whereas, like, there's still plenty of Konami and Capcom. I mean, they only had one of the 6 Mega Man games on there. You can put those on there. They had they had 2 Castlevanias. I don't think they had Castlevania 3 on there. I don't think like Metal Gear Solid 1 was on there. You had one of the Contras, not the other one. So like, there are plenty of games you could put on there, but that you would need that third party support.
Yep, and I do. Yeah, I think it's the third party contractual negotiations that are the fulcrum for this whole situation.
Right. But like, how much? Like, I know they want to increase the profit margin, so they have to make it more expensive. But they have to make it appear to be a good value still. Can you do that just with more games? And it would have to be a lot of games. Like how much is the NES Classic Edition 2.0 going to sell for? $80, $100?
I mean, I think they can. I think they can go to $100, but I would imagine they would still want to do like $89.99. $60 always felt like a impulse purchase.
It was a good deal for sure. I thought it was an easy buy at $60.
But yeah, I think maybe they bump it up to like 80 or 90. But like the profit margins, I think a big part of that's going to come from just giving less money to the third parties. So they're going to get it on both ends. They're going to increase the price on the retail side. They're going to give less money to the third parties on the other side. Even when they do end up getting more games, I bet they're probably still going to give less. And they will now also, they could like renegotiate all the parts purchasing because they know that this thing's going to be really popular. So they could purchase in bulk at a much higher rate and get a much better deal on those parts. So I think that they're going to find a way to just reboot this whole idea in a way that makes them more money from the ground up. And I think we're in the middle of that process.
It's just hard to imagine that they just don't make any more of these retro systems after that did so well.
There's like that is the impossible situation, right?
You would say that, but it's Nintendo. Like, maybe.
Oh man, maybe. Fuck. So I mean, okay. So let's talk about your unlikely situation. I mean, do they really think that that's the same market? The people buying virtual console games on the Wii, Wii U, Switch, that's not the same market as the people that were out buying NES classics. And even if it was, like, we're buying both.
Crossover. Yeah, there was definitely a lot of people who would do both. There's a lot of people who would never buy a virtual console game on the 3DS or whatever, who were getting NES classics. There's a lot of people who don't even play video games anymore who wanted an NES classic.
Yeah, for sure.
Their childhood and all that stuff.
And they went out and bought second controllers and things like that, and Nintendo's.
I think that's who this really hurts. I think is a lot of those accessory makers who are making like the controllers and the extenders, thinking that Nintendo was like going to keep making these things.
Yeah, a lot of them like just got on their feet, where they caught up with demand and they had enough on store shelves and Amazon warehouses in the last month, and now Nintendo pulls the rug out from underneath them. It's a comical situation, but to me there is zero chance that there's not some version of this idea on store shelves this holiday from Nintendo, and I don't know what world they're living in if they don't have it. I mean, especially cutting like in April, like we're in the first half of the year, so that gives them a runway to build up to it. I mean, I'm clearly piecing ideas together here, the different situations to fit what I want, like to fit the idea of an NES Classic coming out this holiday. I'm seeing the patterns or whatever where they may not exist. But to me, it's like it just seems obvious that this is what they're doing. They're going to have a sequel to this idea. I don't know.
It's got to be something. It's kind of bummer because like I did hope at one point like we could get the SNES Classic this year. Now that feels later off now.
Yeah, that feels once they really exhaust the NES Classic idea. I think they want to give it several years before they move on to the SNES. I'm with you though. I'm a bit disappointed. I was ready for that system. Now I'm just curious to see how they handle this and like what their idea is for this spin-off of their core business. And it also makes me really curious to see what the hell the virtual console is going to be like on the Switch. Do you think they even still call it the virtual console?
I guess. I mean, what else are you going to call it?
I know.
Is it just like digital games? I don't know.
Yeah, like, do they just throw old games into the same store?
I was kind of hoping we would hear something about that during that Nintendo.
It's definitely going to be that's definitely an E3 thing, I think.
I guess so.
They're going to announce, because if they are making a big deal of how they're doing it different, it'll be at E3. I mean, it can't be any later than E3 because soon after that's when they're going to start giving out their free game per month as part of their subscription service for their premium online network. So, yeah, I guess that, again, I'm just seeing patterns where they may not exist. So who knows? Nintendo is that weird company out in the ether doing their things because they do their things their own way. But yeah, this, I know a lot of people were shocked by this. To me, there were logical reasons to do this that lead very clearly into a new version of this idea. And I think a lot of people just thought they're canceling this because they hate money. That's not the case. So
there might be a reason. It might be a bad reason, but there's a reason.
Yeah, exactly. With Nintendo, it might be a bad reason, but you know,
I mean, the only way we'd ever get any idea is if they had a shareholder meeting coming up and somebody can ask there. But I don't think they have one coming up too soon, right?
No, I think it's no, because we just got out of earnings.
Because if I was a shareholder, I would definitely have some questions about what's going on with this.
So, I mean, the thing sold more than 150,000 in its first month, and that was with the supply constraints. So, I mean, they sold every single one they made. All right. Yeah, no other real big ideas about that or big thoughts. Clearly, I just think Nintendo's a weird company, but they are successful for a reason, so they must have some idea. Okay, Mike, I think that's going to do it for this week's podcast. Do you want to go ahead and just maybe tell people where they can find you on the internet?
Sure. I'm Tolkoto at Twitter. That's TOLKOTO. I'm always writing on GamesBeat, and I also do the Exploding Barrel podcast. It's another gaming podcast that I do with my brother. We've been doing that for just about 10 years now. You can find that at ebpodcast.com.
Man, 10 years. That's nuts, dude.
I know, it's weird.
Speaking of things we've been doing for about 10 years, and it might be time for this might be the last one for this bit. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to read what Mike has written in the Google Doc.
You're deciding that this bit is done.
I'm deciding. Yeah, it might be. I'm just saying. It might have run its course. But here it is. I am Jeff Grubb 2, still sucking after all these years on Twitter.com.
We'll get on that one then.
Or just Jeff Grubb. I actually really like that one. That might be a high note. I also make videos occasionally. You get them on youtube.com/Jeffrey Grubb. I'm still want to start a Zelda series where I plays a nude Link. I want to find some time to do that, but we'll see. Hope maybe this week. We'll be back next week with another new episode. So if you want to check in on us, then it'll be live on Monday. Hopefully, if I can get everything working, it'll be up on the podcast feed on Tuesday. In the meantime, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you then.
Bye.